Welcome to the Chess Angle. For this interview episode, I had the honor of speaking with Grandmaster Romain Edouard. Romain is from France, but I caught up with him during his current visit to the U.S. for his stint as the Grandmaster in Residence for the renowned St. Louis Chess Club. Romain is an accomplished player, teacher, lecturer, author, and commentator. For all Chess Angle listeners, Romain is offering a discount on all books from his website, thinkerspublishing.com. Use the code ROMAIN15, all capitals, ROMAIN, the number 1, the number 5, to receive 15% off all books from the site. This discount does not apply to sale items or bundles. The website and discount code are both listed in the show notes. My conversation with Romain begins right now. It's The Angle. So, Romain, welcome to the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on. I know we had a little difficult time with our schedules, but I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Really excited to speak to you, to speak to a grandmaster, and to hear your insight and to hear about what's happening in the chess world for you. So I want to start, Romain, just by talking about your happenings in the chess world right now. I know you're in the States now, in St. Louis, so I'm glad I caught you while you're here. I appreciate your time because I know you have a busy schedule. So tell me about your connection and what's happening with the St. Louis Chess Club, because I know you're working with them right now. You're doing some streaming and other things. But if you could tell us what that's all about, I'd appreciate it.
So look, actually, the first time I came to the St. Louis Chess Club was sort of a funny story because there was the Grand Chess Tour event taking place in Paris, and I'm French, but they brought me to St. Louis to commentate on the tournament in French, just because here they had the studio and everything ready, you know. So that the first reason why I came was to comment on a tournament that took place in my own country. So that was kind of fun. And since then, I've always got very nice relations with people at the St. Louis Chess Club. I mean, not only you always have a great time there, but the atmosphere is very good. The people are very nice, and it's not every day that you walk in the street and you meet 2,700 grandmasters at the corner of the street, you know, because there are always grandmasters around. So it really feels like it's all chess here. And so this month I'm here as a resident grandmaster, so I'm giving lectures, streams, and so on. So quite a busy schedule. So some classes for adults, but also for kids, doing the different things every day. Actually, Friday is my only day off every week.
Okay, that's great. Now, let me ask a couple of questions. Now, when you stream, are you streaming like instructional things? Or are you playing simuls? Or are you streaming games? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Actually, both. Most of my lectures are streamed. People can watch them online. Just a few of them are not streamed because there are ongoing tournaments. There was the American Cup until a few days ago. Now the Bucharest Grand Chess Tour started, so they're kind of busy. And some of my lectures are not streamed, but most of them are. And 3 times per week. Actually, 4 times per week, from Monday to Thursday, I'm playing 2 hours against viewers. Sometimes also simuls on Saturdays. Really doing many different things.
That's great. Now, tell me about some of the adults that you're giving lectures to. Are you finding that there's a lot more interest among adults or like adult improvers, adult beginners, especially because not only the pandemic, but I'm sure you've heard of the Queen's Gambit on Netflix, which seems to be attracting a lot of adults. Do you find that there seems to be a greater interest among adults who maybe didn't play that much when they were younger?
There is definitely a growing interest for chess. it's probably true that I actually don't think the COVID alone would have a good impact on chess. I don't think the new Netflix series, The Queen's Gambit alone would have a good impact on chess. But both together, for some reason, had a very good impact because indeed players started to play online, and this series came up, and indeed there was a growing interest for chess.
So, Romain, you have a Chessable course, which is a repertoire against C4, the English opening. So maybe you could tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. It's been released just a few days ago. It's been a tough work. It's like I don't know, 7-8 hours of video, but it really takes so much longer, to make such a course. First, you have to make the chase-based files, to clean them completely, and then you have to you have to record and so on. That was much more work than I would have expected, but I'm really happy with the result because I simply think that the chess material is of high quality. I mean, I'm just happy with the final result. So sometimes, you spend a lot of time on something and you're still not entirely happy at the end. But this time I was really happy because I even improved my own repertoire against 1c4. I thought I had a good repertoire, but I found so many new ideas when I was working on the course. I've been working on the course with cloud engines, so that to make sure that I don't miss anything. And I discovered so many new ideas. It's been actually a really interesting and intensive work. And I'm happy with the result also because Chaseable, is a team of extremely professional people. You deliver good work and they do something good with it. You don't have a bad surprise when you see the results. Once it's on sale, when you see the results, you think, well, people who have been working on my course really know what they're doing, and that's really appreciable.
All right, I'll have to check that out. Can I ask you a quick question about the English?
Sure.
Against C4, I usually play 1b6, and I usually do pretty well. It usually transposes. Is that okay? Or what do you think?
It is okay. Actually, I've played it myself as well because I used to play this b6 in all kind of positions like d4 knight f6, c4 b6, all kind of b6 moves which are dubious. And actually against c4, it is a very reasonable move because white is not in time to take all the center. So c4 b6, in my opinion, is a completely fine move.
Okay, there you go. You heard it here. Grandmaster Romain Edouard said my b6 against the English is good, and he plays it himself sometimes. So there you go. But, sometimes what I'll do is, the reason I like to play b6 is because then by fianchettoing early, it doesn't cause a problem when white fianchettos. I don't know. I used to have trouble with that, but I don't know. I play b6 and fianchetto and then knight f6, and it'll sometimes transpose into a nimzo or something. But like you said, it's flexible. It's flexible, right?
If you play b6, you have to be ready to play some kind of nimzo position.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do. I normally play the nimzo or the Queen's Indian against d4 anyway. So a lot of times this will try to transpose. But okay. So just thought I'd throw that in there. All right, Romain, I want to ask you about the Immortal game chess platform that I know you're involved with. So maybe you could tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a project that was born a few months ago. It's not even officially launched. It is, but only the beta version. I think beginning of June. The website will have its official launch. And it's a platform where you can play chess and you get rewarded when you win the game, but also when you achieve missions during your game. So for example, first of all, you can pick up to 4 missions every game. If you don't succeed, you don't lose them. But these missions are NFTs that you actually buy or earn. For example, if you win one of the tournaments. And And the missions can be like win the game without castling short side, win the game without having an isolated pawn, win your game without moving your h2 pawn, be the first to capture a bishop. So it's kind of a fun way to play chess. And it's a very big project. They have very big investors, and I'm very happy to be one of their ambassadors. I've been the founders are from Paris, so at some point I've been in touch with them, and I've been helping them a little bit finding more ambassadors. They're very nice. They're also very nice people. I mean, extremely friendly people. So I'm just happy to be part of the project, and I'm really excited about how it's going to grow, because okay, it's crypto, it's crypto, so that could be a very huge success. You never know. At least I would definitely recommend everyone to have a look at Immortal game. Just Google it, and you will find out. It's really a fun way to play chess and get rewarded, contrarily to other platforms where you can just earn a few rating points online, which are just for your online rating. There you can get real rewards that you can sell later, because there are NFTs.
Yeah, I was going to say that's definitely unique. Yeah, the NFTs and the crypto. Yeah, I don't know too much about that, but it's like you said, that could be big. I mean, it's already kind of growing, but yeah, I only know that kind of peripherally. But all right, so let me ask you about Thinkers Publishing. Now, I'm going to discuss, or I want you to discuss, a few of your specific books in a minute. But if you could just give me kind of briefly your role at thinkerspublishing.com and what that's about, because I know that you're editor-in-chief. So maybe you could tell us about that a little bit.
So Thinkers Publishing was created, I think, in 2013, if I'm not wrong. And I think I became editor-in-chief like a year later or something like this. So quite some time ago already. And yeah, so first of all, I'm also an author. So I wrote different books, but I'm editor-in-chief, which means that I'm helping finding authors. I'm receiving their material, checking it, and I try to. I'm more like a coordinator. Like I receive the material, I check that the contents are good, then I send them to a native proofreader so that the English is perfect. Then it comes back to me. Then I send it to a typesetter. And finally it goes to the printer. So I'm trying to coordinate everything so that at the end of the day, the book looks good, like with a very nice layout and with perfect. I mean, it's very hard to publish a book without a single taping mistake, let's say. But of course, we're trying to make the English absolutely perfect. So, okay, our goal is just to publish the best possible chess books on the market.
So let me ask you about a few of your specific books. After that, we can get into some, improvement tips for some of our listeners. But first, I want to ask you about the Chess Manual of Avoidable Mistakes. You have 2 volumes to that. So maybe you can give us an update about that book.
Yeah, so that was my first book for Thinkers Publishing. When I wrote it, I was not an editor-in-chief yet. The CEO of the company, Daniel von Josele, came to me. Actually, it's not Daniel von Josele. It was the previous editor-in-chief, but I knew Daniel as well. So the previous editor-in-chief came to me asking if I would like to write a book, and I thought, why not? There is this new. I find it exciting that it's I found it exciting that it was a new company with high objectives. I like the idea of building something. So I was happy to write for for a newborn company. And yeah, so my first book was about avoidable mistake. I mean, they asked me like, okay, we would like to have you as an author, but what can you write about? And I thought for a while, and I thought maybe avoidable mistake is a good idea. I wrote the book and I used my own games, and I tried to be as honest as possible. So I rechecked my own games to recall my mistakes and so on. And I'm mostly using my games in the book, showing some of my mistakes. Chess is a very psychological game, and most mistakes are psychological. But I'm also giving tips like how to handle time trouble, how to handle this and that situation, and so on. Like there are so many ways. I mean, there are so many ways to make mistakes that obviously some of them are avoidable, which is why a book on avoidable mistakes makes sense.
Yeah, and that's so important. And I respect the fact that a player of your level is willing to discuss mistakes using your own games, because that's really what's most instructive. I think some GMs, entitled players, they might focus, just on their wins, let's say, but to really look at your errors also, I think is, incredibly instructive. Now, let me ask a question with our listeners in mind. They say at the amateur level, say the below 2000 level, that it's ultimately just avoiding mistakes is really what it's about. In other words, if you want to get to, let's say you want to get to 1600, you want to get to 1800, you want to get to 2000, it's really just about avoiding more mistakes than your opponent, even more so than just learning chess theory. I'm wondering, what your thoughts are on that, because there's kind of a school of thought that, well, just don't make any blunders, just play very clean and just wait for your opponent to make a mistake. Do you feel that's valid? Do you feel that's part of it? Do you feel it's more than that as far as a philosophy?
That is actually what I'm more or less explaining in the book. I'm actually giving general tips that can be applied at any level. I mean, these tips can be useful for a very strong player as they can be useful for a beginner, Let me give one concrete example. Usually when you make a mistake and you realize about it, you're so shocked and so unhappy with yourself that then you make a second one, third one, fourth one.
Yes.
And that's strictly psychological. So all you have to do is to reset your mind when you make a mistake. And that's the kind of tip which I give in the book. And this can be applied by anyone from 1000 ELO to 3000, It's just something that is not easy to do, but okay, if you really try to apply it, then definitely that will reduce your number of mistakes.
Excellent. Very, very good. Okay, cool. So let me ask you about another book I want to talk about, the Chess Calculation Training Series. Tell us what that's all about.
I mean, there is a lot of material, actually also for free now online, to solve puzzles and work on calculation. But to make things simple, I do not think this is good material, because most of positions, they are unrealistic, or it's always the same, like find a winning move. But okay, when you're playing a chess game, there is nobody to tell you in this precise position you have a winning move, So my goal when writing this series on chess calculation training was to make a puzzle book that make the reader closer to the situation he has in a chess game. So, for example, it's gonna be there are chapters. First of all, it's not only tactics. There are also some strategical puzzles. There are some defensive puzzles, and also there are things like you get a series of moves, and you need to find where the win was missed. Or there is a chapter like I give you two options. You have to pick the right one, because how many times are you hesitating between two moves in a game and cannot choose? So I'm really trying to put the reader like in a game situation, which I think is something that does not exist in any other book. So that was my goal when I wrote these books, to simply, I mean, not just to train on calculation, but to really put the reader in a game situation.
Romain, I think that's so important what you just said, that the chess positions you're studying should emulate an actual tournament situation. I've mentioned this before in a previous episode where, and you kind of touched on this, the problem with these puzzles, it's mate in two or white to win a piece. They're kind of giving you the answer. They're giving you a huge hint, right? Whereas in the tournament hall, no one's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, okay, this is a strategic position and you need to, control this square. Or in this position, he's threatening to take your knight with this tactical shot. You got to watch out for it. But when that's given as a clue in a puzzle, it kind of ruins the whole point of figuring out what the best move is. And like you said, when you're in the tournament, you have to figure it out on your own. And to have study material, like you said, that simulates an actual tournament situation where you kind of have to understand the whole board and the whole position organically, I think that's so important. Absolutely.
I think so too. Actually, it's a bit, if I would compare it to some other sport, I would say, if you just do random puzzles, let's say you go online, you do Puzzle Rush, whatever, it's a bit like, let's say, a tennis player who is going to the gym and working on his muscles and so on his just to train and get more strength. But he's not doing that. He's not improving his tennis level. He's doing something important, which is getting a better, stronger body, but he is not improving his tennis level. The way I present my puzzles, you also improve on your chess because you are in this game situation. You are facing the same situations as you're facing in your games. It's not possible to make it exactly like a chess game because anyway, I have to give a starting position somewhere. So anyway, you get sort of hinted, but not as much as in other calculation books or videos where they really tell you this is a position, you have to win a piece.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Or if, like, oh, this position's mate in three, you're going to look at the king and checks and, sacrifices around the king. So no, that's great stuff. So let me ask you about one more book, My Magic Years with Topalov. Tell us about that.
So that's actually my favorite book amongst the ones that I wrote, because these were actually the best years of my chess career. I've been working with Topalov for 4 years, from 2010 till 2014, and it's been unforgettable. It was first of all extremely interesting, but also Topalov is an extremely nice guy, and even still today we're really good friends. We're talking monthly, sometimes weekly. So we had many interesting ideas over the board, and we had a very good time, and we had a very good time outside of the board. So I had many stories to say on how it works to work for a top player, and how these top players are focusing during tournaments. But also I could tell about my own story with Topalov and so on. And because Topalov in 2014, when we stopped working, more or less stopped being a professional player, he didn't really mind me showing some of our ideas in the book. So in the book, I was even able to reveal some things that I should normally not be allowed to, because, well, Topalov was kind of retiring at the time, so he didn't mind. He even wrote a preface of the book. So yeah, it's a book. I mean, the book is a collection of his games, obviously, but with a lot of stories and all the background and the way we were working, and how was his temperament and so on. And yeah, it's always pleasant to write about what you consider being the best period of your life. It was simply really cool, and it was a fantastic job from all points of view.
That's fascinating. That's a great story. Now I have to definitely check that out. That's very, very cool. It's like you said, and when you bring, your own experience into it, it just makes it special. Now that's great. I'm going to have to read that one. All right. So let's change gears a little bit with our listeners in mind. I want to talk about chess improvement. And most of our listeners are probably somewhere between beginners and intermediate players, and a lot of adult improvers looking to get better, looking to improve their chess. And avoiding mistakes is certainly a major part of that. That's really the main reason why I had you on. So for this next segment, I'm kind of basing this off of your chess.com lesson regarding avoidable mistakes. And avoidable is really the main word, because if players really are aware of this and focus on it, they can reduce the number of errors. I mean, I think you would agree it's unrealistic to say that you need to be completely mistake-free, because we're humans. No one's going to do that. But you want to reduce errors, obviously, as much as possible. So I'm going to name a few things that you suggest, and then I'm hoping you could talk about them in detail. So the first avoidable mistake, or the way to avoid mistakes, is to be objective. So tell us what you mean by that.
So be objective actually covers many aspects of the book and of this series that I wrote, that I recorded for chess.com. I recorded quite a few mini series for chess.com, which are just 4 or 5 videos of 15 minutes each around. And the first one was indeed about avoidable mistakes, and it was based on my book. So yeah, objectivity is, it's the most important thing at chess, actually, being objective. Because if you remove your emotions, you simply make less mistakes. So when I talked a few minutes ago about when you make a mistake, you realize it, you're upset, so you start to lose, you start not to focus, you make more mistakes, and so on. That means you lost objectivity because you made a mistake. You also lose objectivity, for example, if you're better, then your opponent simply plays better than you. You're no longer better. It's time to play safe and make a draw, for example. But you're still in this, you're still in this, you're still feeling like you should win the game because you were better. You lose objectivity, and then you get worse and you lose the game. So objectivity really covers a lot of things. So it's about being able to reset your mind when you lose control of something. It's simply being able in any situation to feel like you start the game from zero again. Like, okay, I made a mistake. Imagine let's say you move your knight somewhere, and then you actually realize it was a big mistake, and that the best following move would be to just return with a knight and just lose 2 tempi for nothing. How many players are going to play this knight move if they're not forced to? Perhaps 5%. Because you don't want to feel stupid. You don't want to feel stupid that you played your knight and then you have to move back, and in the meantime your opponent played 2 useful moves. But if you're objective, you move your knight back because you understand this is the best thing to do. That's just an example among many.
The position calls for it to move your knight back, so that's more important than your ego, right? And just feeling good. And it's like you said, you may be embarrassed to do it, but it's the right move.
Exactly. It's so objectivity is about, in every position, trying to play the best move, and not to try to play depending on what has happened in the previous moves. Every position you should think objectively, and this is not an easy thing to do at any level. But okay, in the video series and in my book, I'm giving tips on how to manage this. Of course, it's impossible to be completely objective. Nobody is, not even the world champion, but there is room for improvement for everyone.
And I like what you said earlier, Romain, about how so many players, you make one mistake and then it just affects you, that you end up completely losing objectivity, and then you make another mistake. Now, I've noticed in my own games, even down at the club level, where if my opponent drops a pawn early on, let's say it's like move 7, and he misses a basic tactic where I win a pawn, it's not like he blundered the game away, but they end up falling apart pretty quickly because you could tell they're so annoyed at themselves that they miss that they just fall apart rather than say, okay, I lost a pawn, just deal with it. Look at the position. They end up, oh, I can't believe it. And they're so caught up in thinking about it. Like, why did I lose that pawn? That they just can't recover emotionally from that. That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yes, and it actually also works. For example, um, when you always lose, when somebody beats you several times, then when you play against him again, then it's very likely that you're going to lose the next game again because generally when you have when you have bad results against somebody, you keep playing badly because you can't forget about these previous losses and so on. And I think everybody has I think everybody has this kind of experience that there is one player who always beats him. He's not stronger than him. He's not strong. The guy is not stronger than you, but he somehow always beats you because he's dominating you psychologically because you already beat him. He already beat you several times. This kind of thing. So this is also being objective. Say, okay, hey, time to stop. Now let's do like I never played this guy ever, and I will just play my game.
That absolutely, yeah. Look at it fresh. Otherwise, it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to keep, losing to this person. Because I hear a lot of people say that, oh, this guy has my number. I can never beat him. But I like what you said. Just think of it as a fresh game. But if you're obsessing with that, like you said, you're losing the game before you even started, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, great. Good stuff. So now the second thing that you mentioned to avoid mistakes is to stay focused. Now, obviously, we all know we have to stay focused, but maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit, maybe some tricks and tips to stay focused, and any other thoughts you have about that.
So this is actually very much linked to objectivity as well, because generally when you stop focusing, that means you lost objectivity. Because why do you lose focus? Because you made a mistake and you stop focusing because you're upset. Why? Another reason can be that you think the game is already won. You stop focusing and suddenly you blunder and you don't win the game. So that means you lost objectivity because you thought the game was over, and actually you still had to be careful. So staying focused, of course, you have to be generally focused, but the most important is to stay focused until the game is over, simply. Otherwise, I think it happened to all of us to have a completely winning game, and the only reason why we did not win it is that we thought there is no way we're not going to win that game, and we lost focus. We didn't really have a look at what was going on, and suddenly something happened, and wow.
Right. You become complacent, it's going to win itself, and you miss one little thing, and then that's all it takes. Yeah. Okay. So now, number 3, you talk about making concrete concessions. And I really like this one a lot. I think an example is, and you tell me if this is what you mean by that, making concrete concessions might be, okay, the position's maybe a little bit open, and you have the 2 bishops, and you think you have the skill to take advantage of the 2 bishops in an open position. But looking at it deeper, you realize the correct thing and the best move is to really give up one of your bishops for his knight. But you refuse to do it just because you feel you want the 2 bishops. That would be not making a concrete concession. Is that kind of what you mean by that? Would that be a valid example?
Yeah, concessions is basically surrendering, like giving up one of your advantages to get something else. And unless you're so much stronger than your opponent, or unless your opponent blunders a piece or something, you don't win a game without concessions. If your opponent plays a decent game, You can't win just being slightly better, then playing, then clearly better, and then increase your advantage very slowly. At some point, you have to do a concession. That can be a pawn sacrifice. That can be giving back the bishop pair so that you can activate your knights. That can be, there are many kinds of concessions, and that's something that I mean, for example, I believe that even a very, very, very strong player like Anish Giri, he used to make many draws. People were even making fun of him because he was making many draws when he was actually the one, perhaps one of the, I mean, he was, for example, one candidates tournament, he made 14 draws out of 14 games. And he was perhaps the one who played the best chess in the world tournament. But in my opinion, he had this problem that he was trying to play perfect chess and he was not making concessions. And since a few years, he has changed a lot his playing style. He's taking more risk. Taking risk is usually making concessions, and his results improved dramatically. And now he's winning tournaments and he's winning many games the way he deserves, because he's one of the very best in the world. But that works at any level. Sometimes there is something you really like in your position, but when you got the utmost of it, there is a moment that you should be able to make a concession to get another kind of advantage. So that can be a material concession, that can be a square, that can be the bishop pair, that can be different things. But generally, you have to trade basically your advantage for another type of advantage, and the other way you're going to make progress and win the game.
And those can be tricky decisions, right? I mean, in other words, do I make the concession here? Do I press? Do I give up the bishop? Do I not? Right. And because I think like the listeners need to understand, and you tell me if I'm right, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that can be a very difficult decision sometimes, correct?
Of course, because you have to find the right moment for it. First of all, you have to dare doing it, and you also have to find the right moment for it. So basically, when, let's say, you have the bishop pair, you are dominating your opponent with the bishop pair, you try to get the utmost of it, you try to get as much space as possible. And the moment you got the maximum space you could get with this bishop pair, then it's maybe time to find another way to increase your advantage. And you have to find the right moment for that, which is not an easy thing to do. But yes, in the video and in the book, I'm trying to give some hints on how to realize when the moment has come to make a concession.
Excellent. No, good stuff. All right. And then the last thing, which I think everybody understands on a basic level, but maybe you could explain it to us rather a little further, is to have a fighting spirit. And we all know that, chess is a battle. You can never expect your opponent to just roll over, and you always have to expect your opponent to play the best move. But maybe you could tell us some ways to have a fighting spirit and maybe some common mistakes and how that's mishandled by players, especially at the amateur level.
Okay, so fighting spirit, first of all, starts with playing your games for a win. Even when you play, okay, let's say you're better against a stronger player. Usually, I think all of us, how many times did we give draws to stronger players just because they were stronger players in positions that we could win?
Agreeing a little too easily to a draw against a higher rated player. I'm so guilty of that. So I understand what you're saying, but please continue.
Yes, this is one of the main aspects of this fighting spirit. This is like the easiest example to give. First of all, if you give draws every time you're better against stronger players, you're losing points, because maybe out of 10 games, if you play on, maybe you're going to lose one, but perhaps you're going to make 6 draws and win 3 or something. Generally, if you're better or much better, you're going to score more than 50%. So this is already mathematically not a good idea. but you're also not improving your chess because you get an opportunity to play a better position and try to convert it against a stronger player. So you're also losing an opportunity to improve your chess. So this is very bad for many reasons. But I did it myself as well, of course, to give draws to stronger players when I should not. So this is one of the aspects. Then fighting spirit is again linked to objectivity. You made a mistake, keep your fighting spirit, do not surrender. You made one mistake. Generally one mistake is not enough to win the game. If you don't make a second one, you will still survive. So keep your fighting spirit. So yeah, again, it's about being objective. You see, you're better, you play on. You made a mistake, you forget about it and you play on. It's all linked to objectivity.
Right. And people get nervous, they get emotional, and then that takes over, right? And the objectivity goes out the window. Correct?
Exactly.
Right. Very good. Excellent stuff. And what you said in that first part about not being so quick to take those draws against the higher rated opponents, because in the long run, you'll actually gain rating points. That's so true. That's so true. That's definitely a problem with me. But now that you're mentioning it that way, you're kind of getting me fired up to to keep going. Because what happens, I think so often, I think a lot of the listeners can relate. I'll play someone rated much higher. I'll get in a little bit of time pressure, nothing crazy, but a little bit of time pressure. And they offer you the draw. You know, it's the classic situation, right? The higher rated player has the worst position, but he has a lot more time and he offers the draw. And so many times we just take it because we just don't want to lose. But I understand what you're saying. In the long run, you're better off just continuing and playing for the win. And if you lose, you lose.
Well, you know, sometimes you're also sitting on the other side of the table. You're playing against a lower rated opponent and you get a draw that you don't deserve because you feel like your opponent is nervous. That's the good thing about being allowed to offer a draw, because now, of course, they are fighting for these Sofia rules, you know, to prevent you from offering draws. Because, of course, chess organizers are getting tired of seeing all the tables empty after half an hour. So, but the advantage of being able to offer a draw is that sometimes that can save you against weaker opponents, because that also happened the other way around. I think to all of us that we got half a point for free just because the opponent was afraid to play on.
Now, what do you think of rules where there's a minimum number of moves before a draw being offered? Like, for example, at my club, and only because this was a bit of an issue, at my club, I have it so that both players have to make a minimum of 25 moves before the game can be drawn by agreement. Okay, by agreement, that is. I'm not talking about like a threefold. So once black makes his 25th move, then the players can agree to a draw, not before. So I'm curious, do you agree with that at the amateur level? And what about at the professional level?
I think generally it's a good thing for chess that you cannot offer a draw, because in what sport can you just decide to stop the game any moment, just agreeing to a draw? Can you imagine a football match when suddenly the players, the team captains talk to each other and decide to make it 1-1 after half an hour?
Sure.
Can you imagine this?
Yeah.
Also, most of sports, draw does not exist. For example, you cannot make a draw when you play tennis. So generally, I think it's good to push people to play. Then amateur level, of course, there is reason. I mean, you can give, I think it's fine to give flexibility to amateurs, because they're playing for fun. If they want to offer a draw, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. At professional level, I think it definitely makes sense to not to allow draw offers. It's actually, I mean, I prefer to be able to offer a draw, because I generally don't take a draw if I'm better against a stronger player, and I like to offer a draw if I have a bad position against a weaker player, because even if he declines, then it has a psychological effect, you know. So I actually prefer to play without the rule, but I think it's a good rule, because if we want chess to be accessible for the audience and so on, we cannot afford players leaving the board after half an hour. Chess has to be a show. It's already not so easy to. I mean, anybody. It's already not easy to get spectators for chess because anyone who has never played football can watch a football match. He understands that okay, the ball has to go into the goal to score. But chess, if you don't know the rules, you cannot follow a chess game. So it's already not so easy to get an audience. So if you also there is no, a game can last 2 hours, just like it can last 5, even if you never refer a draw. Even a decisive result can be very short, very long. So you can't, if for example, it's difficult to put chess at the TV because how do you program it? You don't know how long the game will last. But okay, if you even allow players to leave the chessboard after 20 minutes, just agreeing to a draw for no reason, if you allow players to agree to it, let's say there is a world championship match on move 35, both players have 1 minute. This is a moment that is the most interesting in the game. Anybody can blunder any moment, but both players are afraid to blunder. They just agree to a draw. I mean, what kind of stuff is that for spectators, for sponsors, and so on? So I think at professional level, it definitely makes sense to not to allow draw offers, at least in individual tournaments. Team events, okay, sometimes you may just offer a draw because it's good for the team, but in individual tournaments, I think it's good to force people to play, especially very top tournaments, of course. I mean, it's also, I mean, the reason is also that an amateur player is coming to a tournament, is paying for all his expenses. You can't, I mean, if one day he wants to make a draw and go visit the city or something, come on, no problem with it. But a professional player, a top player who is paid for playing, should definitely play his games and should not be allowed to leave the chessboard after 20 moves, or 10 moves, just offering a draw. Okay, if there is a repetition, there is a repetition. This happens. You can't prevent the player to play a move and say, no, you don't play that because it's 3 times repetition. But generally, you should encourage fighting spirit and avoid disappointing spectators, simply.
That makes sense. Oh, that's a great answer. Yeah, no, I agree completely. All right. So, Romain, before I let you go, I want to just ask you one more thing. If you could talk about some general chess improvement advice, right? Especially for amateur players, things that you feel are the most important to improve, maybe common mistakes or erroneous study methods that you see, anything like that. I'll kind of let you take this in whatever direction you want. But, what advice do you offer for improvement?
So the main advice is take all information you can about chess. When I was young, my chess club was opening on Monday evenings, on Thursday evenings, and on Saturdays. And I was there from the beginning till the end, playing blitz against everyone. Every time I could analyze with my opponent, I always did it. If there is a possibility to follow a lecture by a good player, just do it. So I would say, if you can play a rapid tournament, do not. Let's say there is next Sunday a rapid tournament, few miles away from your home. Don't think, okay, now it's Sunday, I'm gonna have a long sleep. No, you need to play as much as possible. So you should not be lazy. You should take all the information you can. And now there is a lot of material available. I mean, when I was like 10, there were not that many instructive chess books. There were no strong chess engines. There were no videos. Like now we have videos on everything. I mean, now there is so much information that is accessible, or for free or for a little amount of money. You simply need to go ahead and learn. But the best training is just to play as much as possible and to take every game kind of seriously. I mean, okay, if you play Blitz with a friend, it's a friendly game. You don't mind if you lose, but still try to give your best. And I think that's the best way to improve. And then now we have this chance to you can watch for free some 2700 grandmasters commentating on high level games for free. I mean, 20 years ago, this is something that would be something completely impossible to imagine. I mean, it's like basically you get a chess lesson for free that you can listen to, let's say, Peter Zvidler or people like this talking about chess for free. So you have to take this opportunity and listen to these people, because even if you do not understand 100% of what they're saying, still what you understand from them, I mean, that will have an influence on your chess. So just take all the information you can.
I like what you said about taking the game seriously, because I think with online instruction and online chess, see what happens now, you have a new generation of, younger kids, especially who were raised on the internet. They're learning how to play the game and improving without even touching a chess book, right? Because everything's online. We have a lot of kids coming to the club. They're in middle school, they're in high school. They don't really read too many chess books or any, because basically everything's online. You want to learn how the pieces move? There's an online course for that. You want to learn about openings? There's a course for that. You want to learn about endings? There's a course for that. Strategy, all that stuff. Even some chess books have the positions in a PGN file. So you could just open up the positions in an engine and look at it. So my question is, though, about taking it seriously. I think the problem with online, when people play online, they either do it while they're multitasking, or it's like they're on their lunch break, or it's like they're at a meeting and they're playing and their mind is not fully immersed in the game. And then I'm wondering if that's affecting them long term. You follow what I'm saying? I just feel like, just based on anecdotal evidence, a lot of people, when they play online, they're not really focusing just on the game. And then I'm wondering if that's becoming sort of a broader mindset when they play. I mean, what do you think? Am I exaggerating a little bit?
There is a danger of playing on too much online, of course.
Well, not so much that online chess is bad, but I feel like when some people play online, I feel like they're not fully immersed in the game. Like they're doing it while they're doing other things, like while they're checking their email or doing this. And if they do that on a regular basis, I'm wondering if that can hurt their game. I guess that's my point.
Well, I don't know if that can hurt your game, but if you don't focus, then definitely you don't improve. But also, you have to be careful with online chess, because, of course, it is very good that you can now watch videos and that you can play Blitz online, because you don't have to wait for your chess club to open and find an opponent. You just go online, you click, and you immediately get a game. And it's the most game you play, the better, you know. But still, there is a difference between playing chess on a computer and playing chess with a chessboard. Also, you don't memorize things the same way. There is a difference between watching a video and taking a chess book and playing the move on a chessboard, trying to understand them, and so on. The risk of online chess is also that instead of trying to analyze your game by yourself, you're switching on the engine. The engine is telling you what to play, but you don't learn anything doing that, because you don't work by yourself. The engine is doing it for you. And now, I mean, for example, how many even strong players, when they have a nice preparation in the opening, and when the opponent deviates, or when the preparation is over, they simply immediately make a mistake, because they've been playing 15-20 moves of what the engine was saying, or somebody's recommendation, and they haven't been thinking by themselves. So then they arrive at the chessboard. At the chessboard, they get some advantage because they repeated what the engine was saying, but they do not have a clue about what's happening. They do not understand the position.
Right. No, I agree. No, there's nothing like just the tactile experience of just having a chess book, a physical chessboard, whether it's playing or studying. And yeah, I completely agree. Because even if I play online and I play at the club, totally different experience, completely different.
Not a different game, but almost.
Yeah. And well, it's funny, Romain, one of the things we were talking about, a lot of us who run like local clubs, we were worried with the boom in online chess, from the pandemic, from the Queen's Gambit, from, all that stuff. You had so many people playing online now. We were worried like, okay, people are going to think this is the new normal, right? We're just going to play online. Why should I leave the house? I can just play chess in my boxer shorts and my slippers, right? And I was worried that it was going to hurt attendance, but it increased it. It actually increased attendance. We've had the highest attendance, I know, at my club, and this is true for other clubs, because of the pandemic. Because what happened was people were playing online and loved it so much, but they realized it wasn't enough. It wasn't satisfying them. It's like they wanted something more. Okay, like this is good, but I need to sit down and do this in person. And we had so many people coming to the club from that, but I thought it was going to be completely the opposite. I thought online chess was going to like take it over, but I was wrong. And I was glad to be wrong about that.
Actually, I think it's taking over, but it's taking over a very big, over a much bigger amount of players. So I think there are many new chess players who only play online and do not go to a chess club, who started to play chess because of this Netflix Queen's Gambit, or because of the pandemic, because chess was a very nice game to play online. And I simply think there are many more chess players. I think actually just I think players who were used to going to a chess club were just looking forward to being able to go back to a chess club and play over the board chess. And from the new chess players, thanks to the pandemic and the Queen's Gambit series and so on, I don't know what percentage of them went to a chess club. Perhaps just 1%. But I simply think there are many more people who know how to play chess and who started playing chess, and that had a good impact on chess clubs.
Yeah, and you have your people who play, like more people play online now, but even if say only 10% of them play over the board, that's still more than we normally have, because that 10% is such a large number because of the huge amount. But you follow what I'm saying? Like it works out. Like I know what you're saying. Like the math works out that you're still getting a very large amount of players who started playing online a lot, but now they're also playing at the club. Even if it's just a small percentage of the online population, it's still increasing the amount of over the board players. I guess that's kind of how I would explain it.
Yes, that's what I mean. I don't even think it's 10%.
Yeah, no,
in
it's
my
not.
opinion,
No.
it's even much less.
Yes,
but I think it's extra players, and I don't think anybody or almost nobody left like over the board chess to play online. I think just everybody was looking forward to being able to play normal chess again. So I don't think clubs lost players. And okay, this little percentage of new chess players who decided to subscribe to a chess club is just something additional for chess, which is good. And okay, online chess is a new market, simply. Now you have this online Champions Chess Tour and so on. Okay, it's a new market, new sponsors. And it did not really affect the market of over the board chess. I think it is just extra sponsor for chess.
So, Romain, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I know you're a busy guy. I know you have a busy schedule there in St. Louis. So, once again, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and keep in touch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, there's just the insight about the mistake avoidance, all the psychological stuff. I really look forward to playing this back and listening to it, because it's a lot to think about. I think our listeners will really benefit from your advice. And I will put some links in the show notes. Whatever Romain wants me to link up, we'll put there. We appreciate you listening. And as always, I hope you win your next game. Have a great day.